Thank you very much for inviting DG Ener, the Commission here to speak at today's policy conference session on energy communities as drivers of the energy transition. We are living in times of an energy crisis with potentially a climate change-induced strict winter on our doorstep. To face these challenges, many measures and solutions have already been brought forward, and one of them are the energy communities. When relying on their own production capacity, they can self-consume electricity at fixed prices and rely less on the wholesale market. To play their role, energy communities need to have access to their own production capacity. Securing the necessary investment capital can, however, at times be challenging. And as such, it is of paramount importance they have access to related financing mechanisms at member state level. At the same time, when engaging in energy sharing and collective self-consumption, energy communities should not develop in isolation from the wider energy system, as their distributed supply and flexible demand is an asset to contribute to congestion management and balancing services. Moreover, system integration of energy communities can help avoid unnecessary duplication of renewable energy assets and a cost-effective deployment of renewables subsequently. In return, these services provide new business opportunities and additional revenue streams for these initiatives. Now, energy communities can also deliver on a just transition, where people have a meaningful say in the implementation and operation of renewable energy projects and share in the derived benefits such as employment opportunities for local youth and businesses, perks that cannot be underestimated at times when inflation is high and energy prices equally. Moreover, these entities can be a natural ally when tackling energy poverty by sharing energy with energy poor households through net billing schemes, for example, or providing low-cost energy efficiency services such as free of charge energy audits. In addition, we have seen energy communities who collect donations from their individual members in order to finance solar PV for the energy poor. One of the most structural solutions to energy poverty is providing the energy poor households access to renewables, and energy communities provide a collective approach to facilitating this potentially. However, for this to manifest, it is of key importance that the energy communities do not act alone, but can forge partnerships with social housing companies and local authorities. They should also benefit from policies and measures not necessarily specifically tailored for energy communities, but for local renewable energy projects that are collectively developed. Measures and policies such as tax incentives, third-party or on-bill financing schemes to help them cover investment costs for these projects. The time is now, the time is right for these projects to flourish, tapping into the potential of their ability to mobilize private capital investments, creating new ownership models and partnerships that bring together resources from local authorities, farmers, citizens, small businesses to collectively develop wind farms, biogas plants, solar parks, and collectively face the energy crisis and collectively transition towards a new era in our energy system that is more decentralized, digitalized, and democratized. The Commission recognizes the potential of these initiatives also beyond the energy crisis. And accordingly, we have set out an ambitious target in the EU solar strategy as part of Repower EU to have one renewable energy-based energy community per municipality with a population higher than 10,000 by 2025. This objective is very ambitious, especially in light of the fact that until today, energy communities still struggle to become more than a niche in most of the EU energy markets. To help them, member states need to remove bureaucratic and administrative barriers that are not justified, enable innovative business models based on flexible self-consumption, and set up one-stop shops and network structures to help them boost their technical and financial capacity. The Commission has already set the blueprint for this to emerge. The Clean Energy Package calls for non-discriminatory and proportionate procedures and the possibility to share self-produced electricity, as well as for access to financial instruments and information for renewable energy communities specifically. In addition, the Commission has in operation two projects, the Energy Communities Repository and the Rural Energy Community Advisory Hub, to help policymakers with the implementation of the EU frameworks and guide and assist energy communities from project aspiration to implementation and operation. These initiatives can serve as a source of inspiration for member states to design their legal frameworks, but also to provide an example of how to design one-stop shops where projects can learn, plan, and gain access to financial, legal, and technical support. I'm very much looking forward to hear today about all of the promising practices and emerging business models to inspire and inform new and existing energy community projects and policymakers on how to take action to bring about social and technological innovation in the energy system. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to this conference that addresses an important topic such as renewable energy communities. Yep. Producing locally means producing cleaner, reasonable, more sustainable, and more democratic energy. The renewable energy communities allow the production of energy at low cost to individuals, small companies, social institutions, and also municipalities. They are also an essential instrument in changing society's relationship with the energy sector, in which each of us decides what we produce and to whom we sell, so contributing to a global energy transition, but with local effects. Climate change, the geopolitical context, and the war in Ukraine that affects energy resources at the global level have demonstrated the need for an importance of energy self-sufficiency in Europe, and also the need to accelerate investment in renewable energies, where the energy communities are an essential part. In Portugal, self-consumption of energy is a topic that is increasingly arousing the interest of consumers. With electricity and gas prices experiencing historic increases and breaking all records, demand for renewable solutions has more than doubled this year in Portugal. Data from the Director General for Energy and Geology shows that until July, the installed capacity for self-consumption of energy in Portugal more than doubled in 2022. Among the various factors that have contributed to this increase in investment in renewable energy by individuals and also by small companies is the increase in support for the acquisition of photovoltaic panels through the Environmental Fund, but also due to the supplementary funding from the Recovery and Resilience Plan. The Portuguese government has been financially supporting the energy transition and has several financial incentives in place for the implementation of self-consumption systems, of which I highlight that since 2020, the support program for more sustainable buildings has been underway with a global allocation of 96 million euros, aimed at the residential sector through individual incentives of 2,500 euros. Since 2021, the VAL efficiency program, which aims to combat energy poverty by improving the energy performance and thermal comfort of the homes of more families. Since 2022, a specific program for public administration that supports projects up to 5 million euros. A program also for non-residential buildings projects up to 200,000 euros, and also since 2022, the Environmental Fund Program in the amount of 30 million euros aimed at the creation of renewable energy communities and collective self-consumption projects for residential, not residential, and public administration. In addition to this concrete support, ADEN is supporting several Portuguese municipalities that intend to implement renewable energy communities and use part of the energy surplus for families in energy poverty. Dear all, despite the installed capacity growing in a very positive way, Portugal still has a long way to go in terms of self-consumption, but the steps taken have been safe. In addition to simplifying the licensing procedure for the implementation of renewable energy communities, working groups were created to encourage the adoption of these communities. ADEN is developing training actions, and together with the Director General for Energy and Geology, also guides and documentations to support consumers and promoters are being developed. An online platform is also being developed for consumers interested in creating renewable energy communities, and the support contact center is now available for all those interested in self-consumption technologies. Let me finish by saying that energy independence is a goal for all Europeans. Renewable energy communities can be the solution to meet this huge challenge and to produce more renewable energy. I really wish you a very interesting conference. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Luisa Matos, co-founder and Chief Innovation and Product Officer at Cleanwatts. I'm here today to present the case of FleXunity and how demand-side flexibility was important for the energy sector transformation under this project, and how we see energy communities as key enablers to access demand-side flexibility. So at Cleanwatts, we have been focusing on the topic of energy communities, trying to uncover the value that we can create to local communities by using the new legal framework of renewable energy communities. So basically, a renewable energy community can be an initiative of multiple stakeholders, companies, private citizens, public administration, etc. They come together collectively to connect in an energy community, so accessing local renewable energy that is being generated in one location and shared with other members of this community. In this way, we enhance the energy transition, the democratization, and make easier access for all for the energy markets and also lower energy costs. The business model that we have been created is really focused on having these two main roles, the anchor client and the member of the community. So with the anchor client, we are offering with zero upfront investment, the implementation of the renewable power plant in its rooftop. So this has allowed anchor clients to save up to 60% of energy, of course, contributing to the lowering of their carbon emissions. And also this has a strong impact on the security of energy supply, increasing energy independence also. And then for the community member, so the community member is are the off-takers of the energy surplus that is being generated by the anchor client. And the way that we have been implementing this, we are seeing savings up to 30%. So basically, the energy community member can have access to cheaper energy locally, and with this have a strong impact on its impact on the CO2 emissions and allow them to have lower cost of energy. With FleXunity, we went beyond what we are seeing with the energy community. So we explore new value that we can create with flexibility for the energy communities. And for that, we embedded in our virtual power plant platform new blockchain and artificial intelligence algorithms, along with developing new business models. So basically, the objectives of FleXunity were really focused on the part of the technology, how we should enhance and scale the technology to meet with our goals, but also, and very important, to develop and validate new business models to be able to actually then connect this to the real world, to the business world, and create more savings, more benefits for different stakeholders. So the business models that we created were focused on 3 levels. The end user level, so with peer-to-peer business model, the retailer and aggregator level. And also, we studied how we could also create novel procurement models for the TSO level. And to enable the optimization, we developed algorithms and validated in 2 demonstration pilots. So the innovation on the FleXunity project was on the business models and how we could enhance the use the flexibility, flexible assets and loads to optimize the energy communities, how the technology and new algorithms could support us in doing so, bringing more efficiency and also savings for our stakeholders, how we could monetize and find out new ways to monetize small loads for both grid stability and also grid security. We introduced also dynamic energy community tariff schemes to help us decide and shift some loads to moments where the energy was at a lower cost, and all of that, all of this, of course, with real time flexibility and automated control of distributed energy resources. So these 2 pilots that we implemented, they had different typologies. So in the UK pilot was a localized energy community in the Corby local area. As in Iberia pilot, we had like a dispersed arrangement of the members of the community spread across Portugal and Spain. So in numbers, this basically, we focused on the same number of homes with PV, homes without PV, and also non-residential sites with some CNI customers. And we installed some controllers, sensors, meters, so IoT devices across these locations. So we used the flexibility of small loads to create more value. So using aggregation of the small loads with peak shaving and load shifting, we implemented this in our business models, and we focused on both REC optimization and savings, local grid stability, and also the perspective of the retailer for portfolio management. We use also the flexibility developments to enhance our Cleanwatts operating system to allow us to optimize the use of distributed flexible loads for the benefit of the communities to enhance the value and the savings that we are developing. So for both front of the meter and behind the meter interfaces, we applied new features and new services for both the aggregation optimization and also the interfaces and the way that members of the community are interacting with the reality of an energy community, and also enabling and allowing the access to their flexible loads. In terms of results, I bring here just some examples of two results that we developed with the project. So with the data from the UK pilot, one of the business models were connected with a peer-to-peer energy sharing, and with centralized ownership. So in this business model, we added additional surplus and flexibility to test out how that could relate then into more benefits and savings for the members of the community and for the community manager. So basically in this scenario, from the base scenario, we added a new surplus of 10%, then 20%, and then 30%. And with the new surplus, we were able to share more energy with the members of the community using their flexibility. So the results that we show here is actually we could achieve, close to 30% of savings, so 18.44% connected with the surplus, and additional 9.5% of savings connected with the use of flexibility in the scenario of the 30% surplus. So this has shown that flexibility used in an optimized manner by an energy community manager can actually create more savings for the members of the community. The other scenario that we tested was with the Iberia pilot data. And in this case, it's also in a peer-to-peer energy sharing business model with centralized ownership. We had a fixed surplus of 20%, and then we added more flexibility to test out how that could relate into more benefits and savings for the members of the community. And we see here that when we multiply by 3 the flexibility that we had available, we can actually enhance our savings close to 28% of savings in total. So again, we tested the benefits of the flexibility in an energy community. So with these 2 scenarios, we actually validated the use of flexible loads. And the flexible loads that we use here, they were connected with the EV charging batteries and some heating and cooling devices, water heaters in the pilots. So finally, we see the role of demand-side flexibility in local energy communities and energy transition as a major role. And in fact, today we can already see and have access to benefits from the perspective of an energy community manager. We can use it to optimize and make the energy community more efficient. And we can do this actually behind the meter. So it's already possible. And by enhancing the use of local renewables, we can actually support the grid's stability and also the security of supply. But we still have some challenges to make this, to bring this to the markets, to the wide market. So in one case, it's the interaction with the end user. We need to simplify and have a very easy way to interact with a member of a community with gamified approaches, and have models to share the benefits that we are bringing with the flexibility. And on the other hand, we still need some changes in terms of the regulatory frameworks and policy that we have right now that can recognize this potential. And also, of course, the creation of local flexibility markets to support system operators. We need some additional changes to allow us to be active in these local flexibility markets. So this is what I brought here today to you. So thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Maria João Benquerença. I'm the Energy Communities Director at Cleanwatts. I think you all know that already. I'm here to talk to you about one of our main projects. It's called 100 Aldeias project. This means the project aims to create energy communities in 100 villages to fight energy poverty, especially in territories that are more interior, have elderly and an aged population. And they face different challenges and bigger challenges than the big cities face. So we created this project to fight, especially to fight energy poverty. This is a project, an innovation and social entrepreneurship project promoted by Cleanwatts and some partners like BWG about the energy. And our main objective is, as I said, to fight energy poverty in rural communities. The project will create the energy community. We think at Cleanwatts, we strongly believe that the energy communities are the solution to the major challenges of the energy transition. The need to decarbonize our planet, our energy production, and our energy consumption. The high energy costs that we all face right now. We are living in a difficult time for the world, particularly for Europe, and the need to produce energy where it's needed instead of producing it somewhere else and transporting it. We need to produce closer to where it's going to be consumed. So this project will create production in each village, creating an energy community, creating an innovation environment that will help people to save energy, consume less energy, doing countries where energy poverty is biggest. It's a big problem for us, the energy problem, the energy poverty, especially in the rural areas. We do all the process in the villages. We go to the village, we present ourselves, we present the project and how it's going to be implemented. We talk to people. We always try to bring local people to help us to bring more consumers, to do the installation, to do the maintenance, all the works that we need to contract somebody. We try to contract as possible in the local people to promote local economy. So we use the local economy players. We need a sponsor, a local sponsor. It can be the parish president, the priest, somebody that's prominent in the community that everybody knows. That's the person we need to help us. How we do it is now I'm going to present you the process of creating an energy community. We confirm the local organization, the interest in participate. We go there to get their enthusiasm. We collect information. We collect information on the community, how we can produce it. And then we do all the licensing, we do the installation, and then we supply energy to everybody. And all families can save on energy because using the same energy, they are going to pay less because the energy is produced locally and it's green and it's cheaper. So we are not having additional costs for being green. We are actually lowering their costs. And we also lower the costs of the transportation and the access to grids. This approach has a lot of benefits, of course. We have reduced energy bills. We have economical benefits, reduced energy bills, reduced operational costs. We can integrate resources. We have digital tools that, well, sometimes in the villages, they are not so used because We have a lot of elderly people that don't use as many digital tools, but we have them anyway because we have a movement now of new people going to the villages, the digital nomads, and they are going back to the villages, working from home somewhere in the world. Okay, they are at home office, working somewhere in the world, and so we need to have digital tools for the users, but also for us to manage the community. This is, and I say this a lot. We may never forget that Cleanwatts is a tech company. We are a tech company. We are a clean tech company. What we do is technology. We don't do installations. We don't produce PV. No, we are a tech company. So we need digital tools to manage a community. We need a lot of tools. This is technology. It's not magic. It's not anything. It's technology. We need tools. We need platforms. We need to do all the assessments, all the calculations, all the distributions digitally. So we have opportunities to sell balancing services to the grid, or we prepare our communities to have access to those features when they are in place. And we have, of course, everybody has access to cleaner, cheaper, and greener energy. Then we have social benefits because we have bigger involvement for the users and citizens in the decarbonization process, in the energy efficiency, in the energy poverty programs. We strengthen the cohesion of the community. They work more for the common goal, for the common good. And we increase the community resilience also. And we have the more than evident environmental benefits, decreasing the municipality's carbon footprint through the energy efficiency and local production of energy of renewable energy, and contributing to a more sustainable future, taking part of the fight against climate change, increasing air quality, noise control. Of course, we may say, well, air quality is not that bad in the villages, but that's not true. Air quality is really, really bad in small villages where people use wood to heat their homes. So we also need to lower that consumption of wood because, well, it has a lot of emissions, of carbon emissions. It lowers air quality. And it's dangerous. In the end, it's dangerous because a lot of people die every year. Well, some people die yearly trying to heat their homes. So this is our project. We at Cleanwatts have our global company, so we have we manage facilities in energy consumption. So we manage 2 terawatt-hour yearly, and we avoid more than 10 tons of CO2 and 2,300 metering points. When we manage energy, we focus on monitoring energy and metering energy. We are more than 80 people now, and we have more than 2,000 active clients. In energy communities, specifically, we have more than 100 racks managed with more than 1,500 community members, over 17 megawatt peak capacity, with an average reduction on the energy bill of nearly 30%. So, and this is me. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce to you the exciting GRETA project that LUT is coordinating with the help of Cleanwatts and other research institutes and universities and also companies from Europe. The context of the project is the pressing need to accelerate the decarbonization of the society of Europe and the economy of Europe. Of course, that the EU has been a leader in this domain, but the progress is not yet compatible with the Paris Accord, and now more than ever, we should be reducing our dependency on imported fossil fuels. What we think that is missing is a more active involvement of the European citizens in the energy transition. From the technical potential point of view, there's been a few studies that have estimated that about 83% of the EU households could take active involvement in the European energy system by producing renewable energy or other types of actions. And from a population standpoint, approximately half of the population could be producing their own electricity via renewables by 2052, not only at home but also in services, via communities, etc. And that technical potential is for us to reach that technical potential, we need to take, of course, action both from the policy perspective and the technology perspective. From the member state point of view, the same analysis has retrieved that between 30 to 70% of the member states' electricity demand could be provided by prosumers. We agree that this potential is understood, well understood, and backed by the European Union, and the evidence of that is the highly ambitious policy packages that we have been having currently in Europe, that have been out in Europe, from the Clean Energy for All Europeans package to the Green Deal, and now also the Repower EU. So we know that the EU is supportive of this vast technical potential. Now, what we think that is missing is a more explicit recognition of the social side of the transition. That is a more explicit recognition of this role and a higher involvement of the citizens in the transition. Of course, that the issue is that we know very little about energy citizenship. We know very little about what drives it, what motivates it, and we also know little about what are essentially the barriers that block it. So how to enhance it, it's a bit of a mystery, and it is unlikely that these top-down policies driven by technology evidence and by market rules alone, which is the current paradigm of policy making in Europe, will be providing us with that edge that we need in order to finally accelerate the decarbonization to the levels that we want. So we think that what's missing is this explicit recognition of the social side of the transition. So we need to reinforce our portfolio of EU policies with socially sensible instruments that are built from the bottom up with the citizens. The project wants to contribute or to provide a solid contribution to improving our understanding of energy citizenship. We want to develop new ways in which we can promote it, enhance it at various geographical levels, from the local to the regional and the national and multinational. And we want to use the lessons learned from the project and also use the methods learned, the methods produced in the project to support the design of better policies for the EU that are inclusive of these elements that we think are missing. There are four major fronts of ambition, major fronts of innovation in the GRETA project. One of them is the very models that we have been developing to better understand the emergence of energy citizenship phenomena. These models contemplate the interactions between different stakeholders, the interplay and the interactions between the different stakeholders under certain conditions and criteria, in order and under different determinant factors, in order to then produce the emergence of energy citizenship phenomena. We are producing and we are testing those models. Then various types of policy instruments. Two important ones are the community transition pathways, in which we co-design with communities the goals, their goals for the transition, their own desired outcomes in terms of transition within the community environment. So we are building those goals with the communities. And then the energy citizenship contracts, which are essentially the way we operationalize into a policy, into a contract, those very same outcomes, right? Those are based in climate city contracts, but applied to the community level, they are essentially social contracts that are applied in a different context. Then our data scientists work in order to produce, to enhance the information that communities, citizens and public authorities have for decision making. We can, for instance, improve the way communities are profiled against other types of communities, and so that they compare their progress in a better way. We also want to avoid exclusion due to data literacy issues. So we are learning on how people interact with energy data and energy information, and ensure that we can optimize that type of interaction. That we apply our knowledge in in 6 case studies in the project. In 5 countries, one of our cases is a multinational case, as a European-wide scale. Of course, this portfolio of cases has been produced in a way that they are all very complementary, and so they were built in that way. This portfolio was built in that way so that we can maximize the experiences and maximize the knowledge we extract from the project. Also, an important element to this is that we have built this engagement framework where we can place the communities in different stages of engagement and awareness in energy citizenship, and in this way we can have them interacting with each other. So, for example, certain cases that are not as aware, where awareness is not at a higher level or engagement is not at such a high level, they can learn from other cases that have been more aware from the onset of the project. Then, of course, that user design approaches are completely central to the project. What you're seeing here are pictures from workshops, participatory workshops in our Italy and Spain case studies. And to the right is the very same methodology that was applied in those cases to develop community level indicators. These multi-stakeholder participatory approaches are absolutely crucial and are the cornerstone for GRETA. Then, to finalize, we have developed a cutting-edge EU-wide survey. Is actually out now, a survey that attempts to improve knowledge about energy citizenship emergence. What are determinant factors for it? As I was saying earlier, it involves 10,000 individuals, covers 16 countries, and is provided in 14 different languages. Elements that we approach are energy literacy and information, social cohesion and capacity. So how do citizens link with each other in order to produce energy citizenship? Then the energy use and characteristics of buildings, and the very emergence models that I explained before. And all of this produced from the point of view of a transversal integration of energy justice. We are targeting 3 respondent groups: citizens, businesses, and policy entities in our EU survey, and we will be very excited to share with you the outcomes of it. Thank you, and I look forward to discuss with you further.
So, good afternoon to all again. Sorry for this slight delay. Well, my name is João. I'm heading a research and development center of EDP, which is a utility company, and I'm here to present IANU's project, which is on the, let's say, on decarbonization and smartification of islands. In a way, islands are, let's say, smaller geographical areas, and so in line with the topic of today with local energy communities, let's say. But let me start with some brief words about EDP strategies on the current context, our center, and then I'll jump into the project. Okay, so we all acknowledge that we are facing, let's say, unprecedented challenges that we need to change, and we need to have a different energy sector which shall be cleaner, affordable, and reliable. This will depend a lot on, of course, on renewables, on decarbonizing our, let's say, our society, and increasing electrification. A lot will have to do with renewables, but as well storage and flexibility, let's say a bit more upstream or transversally throughout the value chain. Grids as a key lever, and digital as a key lever for this, let's say, smartification of the system. But a lot of this will be played on, let's say, downstream, at the level of local communities, homes, buildings. That's why we find the topic of today so relevant. Regarding EDP, just for those that don't know, we are let's say global energy company. We started off in Portugal as, let's say, the incumbent in electricity and gas, but we changed and we are now a global player in renewables. So today we are present in 28 markets. Around 60% of our operational profit comes from renewables, and around 30%, 36% grids. And we still, of course, we also have commercialization clients, and so the remainder of the operational profit comes from that source. We have around 25 gigawatt of installed capacity, of which around 15 are wind farms. We started a bit later on solar, but we are ramping up on solar, namely on distributed solar in Europe, in US, South America, and as well more recently in Asia. On EDP's strategy, I would say simple to explain, but quite complex to implement. But to put it in 2 words, we want to be coal-free by 2025 and carbon neutral by 2030. So anticipating a bit the trends or the goals that we all commit to as nations or as continent in this case. Regarding our research center, we are, let's say, a small research center, quite still recent, started back in 2015. We are a team of around 50 researchers, some more senior, some more junior, working a lot with European funded projects, competitive funded R&D projects. And that's where we are one of the pieces of the innovation ecosystem at the EDP group, let's say. The areas we cover, we've recently, in a way, reorganized, rethought a bit our innovation paradigm at EDP, and so we are now focusing on 7 domains, which are renewables, grids, distributed energy resources, green hydrogen, storage and flexibility, mobility, and decarbonization of energy uses. And of course, we need to have an 8th domain, which is like an open box for whatever comes, whatever the future brings. But I guess the comment here is that local energy communities and is quite transversal to, I guess, all these vectors. That's why we think it's so relevant to develop projects driven for modernization of distributed energy resources, distributed generation, etc., towards leveraging a lot this concept of local energy communities. So, jumping to IANU's project. IANU's was one of those projects from these calls from the European Union on decarbonization of geographical islands. So the project started back in October of 2020. It's still the final stages of engineering and the first steps of implementation. So sorry to say that we still don't have final results to share, except in some specific topics, which we could already share, but majority of things are still under implementation. But briefly, around 42 partners from 9 countries in Europe. We basically have 2 larger ecosystems, one in Portugal around the Terceira island in Azores, which is one of the lighthouse islands, and the other ecosystem around Ameland, which is a second island in the Netherlands, where majority of, let's say, of the implementation of the actions will take place. The objectives of the project are to help decarbonize geographical islands, as I said, optimize energy consumption, energy bill of the clients, as well as integrating more and more renewables into the systems, increase energy efficiency, and as well reducing carbon footprint. I mean, this is not new. Duration 4 years, so we're more or less, let's say, halfway, and the budget is around 9 million euros. So briefly on the context, why Llanos, and why do we focus on islands? One of the reasons is because a significant part of the population in Europe lives in islands. Let's say the production cost in islands, so the starting point in islands is different. It's usually they have higher energy costs, so the more impactful you could be in the shorter term. There's as well this concept that islands could be, I would say, living labs for what will happen on continental systems later on. And by addressing islands, you could have, I would say, a more impactful action with smaller resources, having in mind this future and in the future scaling the results of islands as well to larger communities. Islands as well have some specificities which are of course addressed in the project, like for example, namely the ones that we are addressing, they are a lot dependent on fossil fuels still. They have some seasonality, for example, namely associated with tourism in this case. And more and more you are seeing the introduction of non-controllable loads, non-controllable generation at the distributed level. So I would highlight these as specificities for this project. And so more concretely on more specific objectives, I repeat a bit, but integrating greater shares of renewables on the system. We need to test different technologies. As you will see, we are testing many different technologies on both on supply and demand, so that we are able to control them in a, let's say, in a heterogeneous case. We also liaise a lot with decision makers on the islands, with the governments, with the utilities, with the clients, so that they are aware of the solutions, are aware of the constraints of all the solutions, so that we finally realize what works and what does not work. Being as much as possible close to the communities, and making sure that whatever we do on these islands also always have an eye on replication. So on other islands, on the same archipelagos, for example, or on different islands, or on the fellow islands, which I will also go through quickly, in different cities, in countries, but looking at replicability for the solutions that we develop here. I did not mention, but I mean, the consortium has lots of partners. I would highlight some here for the Portuguese consortium. Cleanwatts, of course, and thanks for the invitation, is one of the key technological partners here, but as well the electricity company in Azores and the local government. So as I said, we basically structured this around the 2 lighthouse cities, which are Ameland and Terceira, and the rationale there was to have as much complementarity as possible. So we have renewables, we have storage, we have different end-use applications, but we have, let's say, complementary cases in Terceira and Ameland. So climate is different, socioeconomic conditions are different. The idea was to have some diversity there. As well, the same on the fellow islands. So for the fellow islands, we also have quite diverse cases. We are so the fellow islands are Bora Bora in France in the Pacific, Lampedusa in Italy, and Greece, and Nisyros in Greece, both in the Mediterranean. And so the idea for this is to be aware of what's happening on the lighthouse cities, making sure that you understand the constraints and the potential, the possibilities that arise, and then writing replication plans for your local reality based on the conclusions of the, let's say, of the project. So we've structured this in three what we call transition tracks. So one transition track on energy efficiency and grid support on on scenarios with high penetration of renewables. One second transition track, which is on decarbonization through electrification, and one third, which is more having to do with local energy communities, and namely this topic of engagement with the communities. A bit, I would say it's the if the two first transition tracks are more technological, these ones are more, I would say, social in a sense. And I will jump into three use cases, just to briefly for you to be aware of what is the context here. So I will touch upon use case 1, which is on community demand side driven self-consumption optimization. Use case 2, which is community supply side optimization dispatch. And use case 9, which is active citizen and local energy community engagement. So on use case 1, this one I think is the one which we could say is further downstream when we think about the technologies. So we will be looking at controlling different local energy assets, optimizing and controlling them, both at the building level as well as at the community level. And then we have, let's say, a virtual power plant that coordinates dispatch of a broader context. As well, we include here some peer-to-peer transactions within the local energy community. Just for you to have an idea, as I said, we try to be as diverse as possible. So on the demand side, we have electric water heaters, batteries, heat pumps, electric vehicles. And on the supply side, we have PV, wind, micro CHP, fuel cells. And the idea is to be as much complex as possible so that we demonstrate, let's say, the robustness of the local energy management, and as well the virtual power plant which will manage all this. Use case 2, I would say use case 2 is a bit upstream to this, and has a lot to do with the management of flexibility. And so this virtual power plant will be basically liaising with the system which is managing, let's say, islands energy system. Namely these lighthouse islands are installing large battery systems, I would say centralized battery systems. And so our virtual power plant will be liaising with these battery systems, and by doing that, providing ancillary services to the system, minimizing curtailment. That's a bit the idea here with use case number 2. On use case number 9, the one on local energy community engagement. So we've been testing different methodologies, etc. Perhaps not as structured as we saw on the previous presentation from LUT. But what we tried to do here was to share a bit what were our learnings from this project and from other projects in mobilizing communities towards this energy topic. So one is that people want to have an active role. They don't want just to be informed. They want to be able to, if possible, to control, to collaborate, rather than just be informed. There is to a large degree there needs to be an adaptation. So every island is an island, every community is a community. You need to act, of course, local. People need to understand exactly what's at stake. I mean, clarity is an issue. Sometimes we understand technology, but we tend to overlook passing these messages thoroughly to the community. So, but clarity is key. So explaining things well, using mock-ups, spending time with the communities to explain things well. I think it clearly makes a difference from this experience and past experiences. It's not like a one-off. You need to be continuously throughout the action, keeping the flame alive, let's say. And finally, of course, there needs to be something in it for the community, be it savings, be it more intelligence, be it competition, gamification with your neighbors, or all this together. And I guess my point is, even on these demonstration projects, I guess the conclusion is that if we do all this, I mean, if we tick all these boxes, and then we look at adoption, this could be to some extent representative of what adoption of this community, of these solutions for these communities will be, in a wider context. That's why I think it's so important. finally, just to emphasize this topic that I said before, why do we like islands? Because we can, in fact, be impactful in this context. So for the Terceira island, we'll be talking about significantly increasing the renewables integration on the system, as well as for Amland. Reduction of fossil fuels. I have some figures here, which basically we used on our impact section, and hopefully we'll meet these targets, as well as reduction of greenhouse emissions. And as we said, this will also be an inspiration for the fellow islands, which will, subsequent to the project, implement replication plans and hopefully enlarge this impact towards their realities. And that's it for me. Thank you. Open for questions.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. Okay, so yeah, the session's been going a little bit longer than expected, but we will now start. We'll be now open to questions. I will start with a question, a general question, and we can all go around and answer it, and then we'll open the floor directly to the people. We have many questions in the chat and Slido. Unfortunately, we won't be able to answer them all. But the question is, and this is for all you, anybody can jump in. What are the main policy needs to tackle, to promote renewable energy community in Europe? What reforms are most needed to promote renewable energy communities in Europe?
Hey, I'll take the bait and I'll respond from the point of view of the GRETA project. This is what we were talking about. Europe has very sophisticated policies. They are technology-based, which is great, technology evidence-based, technology testing and demonstration-based. They are also based on market economics, and all of that is very right. However, we need to find the edge, which has to do with building policies that do have an element of bottom-up too, and that's what we are doing in GRETA. Right? We want to listen to the citizens, involve them. So, for example, talking about renewable energy, we present, actually, João was just talking about this. We present citizens with a renewable solution, but do citizens want them? How do citizens want them? Why do they want it? Why don't they want it? What are their perceptions over renewable energy? So this is not, the discussion now needs to become, let's co-create these solutions with the citizens and not just present them with the solutions. So in a very general manner, what I think is missing in our incredibly sophisticated, and I truly mean it, our incredibly sophisticated policy packages, what is missing is this explicit recognition that citizens need to be in the creation of it with us.
I don't know if anybody... Go ahead.
I mean, I would perhaps introduce a comment. Not sure if this is, I guess, probably more having to do with the Portuguese reality, but I would emphasize this topic of, I mean, legislation is there, regulation is there. Then there's a topic of enforcement or practicalities around it. I mean, of course, everything, when something new comes, there are also challenges. But I mean, we do see some implementation challenges here with the let's say with the technical authorities struggling with lots of demand for because this is interesting and people are looking for it. But I mean, there is still some challenges that need to be taken there.
Let me maybe on top of that, and of course I agree with both. And I'm not sure if Maria João wants also to jump in, but from the experience that we have right now at the commercial level, implementing energy communities, we have a huge demand for energy communities. But still, and we have legal framework. So thinking about Portugal, and also Italy, for instance, another country where we are establishing energy communities, we do have the legal framework, but we are still lacking some those practicalities. So basically, if we think about some legacy administrative and permitting systems that are not able to move at the faster pace that we need for the energy communities to be implemented. We are still using some
bureaucratic components that basically blocks and delays the implementation of the energy communities. Maria João can tell you about the couple of hundred energy communities that we have cooking, right? And that we are submitting for approval at the authority, the energy authority level. And we know that they are doing also what they can, but there are some, on the implementation level, there are still a lot of barriers, right, Maria?
Yeah, as I used to say, I know, I'm pretty sure everybody is doing what they can, but the barriers are too high in the actual context that we live in right now. Okay, people are having the energy bill raised through the roof. And the companies, especially the smaller companies, are having a lot of problems, and they need a fast response, and we are not able to give it to them. We don't. I'm not. I think nobody heard me complain of people not coming knocking on our door, and we didn't have clients. We have lots of clients, lots of demand. Actually, just to share with you, the other day I was giving an interview to a reporter, a radio reporter, and she was asking me, okay, because what we do is, since we don't have the legal framework in place, not the legal framework, we don't have the licensing in place. What we do is we install the self-consumption, and then we have self-consumption until we can share the energy in a community and have an actual community. And we limit the production. We have the inverter limiting the production because we have too much production. And she was asking me, but what are you doing with that energy? We are doing nothing. So it's wasted. Yeah, it's wasted. It's really, really sad to realize that, and it suddenly sank in that we are wasting energy in a time of our lives, maybe the time of our lives that we need it the most, and we are just throwing it away because the inverters are limiting the production. We have nothing to do with it, and people around are waiting for that energy.
Yeah, and members of the community, yes, they are waiting. Yeah, they want to use that energy.
Waiting.
Yeah, we can't legally share with them yet.
Yeah, that is a big concern. João, Gonçalo Mendes, I think you want to add something?
Just a quick comment. I mean, I don't have my, let's say, my boots on the ground as our colleagues from Cleanwatts. I'm a research and development, so but my observation here is a bit, I mean, renewables started to some extent centralized, like large wind farms, large PV farms, through feed-in tariffs, large auctions, so pretty much organized processes, highly regulated, and this is where it's an explosion, right? We are now being completely dispersed. This is when the distribution kicks in, and we are kind of using a centralized still approach for something which is completely dispersed. So I guess we need to further streamline the process. It needs to be completely thought differently. This is my observation.
Yeah, okay. Totally agree.
Okay, I will open the floor. If anybody wants to ask the question, anybody in the audience wants to ask the question, please state to whom, or if it's everybody, and ask it, or else I'll read some of the other questions that we have here.
Yeah, Steve, maybe we can also jump in to ask our colleagues some questions. And I realized that actually me and Gonçalo, we were thinking about a similar question. And I saw that in the Q&A, there's also this question. And here for Maria, and because Maria is dealing and talking with people in many locations, and she has good feedback about how, like, vulnerable person from interior, elderly, so people that don't actually live in this energy world like we do, how they are reacting to this value proposition. So how they see the possibility of having a community, energy community there, what does that really mean for them? And are they accepting it? Is it strange? Is it too good to be true? You know? Maria, you're on mute?
You're on mute.
Yeah, it would be better for you to keep on keeping me on mute, but okay. Sometimes people really do say it's too good to be true. Well, they are not in the energy world, they are not in the tech world, they are not digital, but they have a bill to pay, and they feel they pay too much, they struggle to pay that bill. And they also, and this is I found this very, very interesting, that they also feel that they are contributing somehow to the community, and they are engaging, and they are creating something good in their community. And we are talking, a lot of times we are talking about very, very vulnerable communities, villages where the population is almost all above 70 years old or 80 years old. And this gives them the meaning that they are contributing to something that may bring new people to the village and may bring new people in. So they are very enthusiastic about it. Actually, they receive us very, very well. They are very enthusiastic, and they are very happy to participate.
This is great. Luisa, can I jump in to comment on the question from the participant, which is excellent. Do you engage with people on how digital tools could be better designed so that can also better meet people's needs? Yes, we have a work package dedicated to this in GRETA too, and it's related to what Maria João was just talking about. Most of the new renewable energy communities or energy community solutions are obviously in the world we're living in, digitalization based. But digitalization knowledge and digitalization awareness, or even energy data, energy platforms, and energy interface awareness is not universal. So in GRETA, we are working with vulnerable communities of the type that Maria João is working with at different levels. So as João was saying, we are more on the research and development domain, trying to understand things a little better so that we can then support companies such as Cleanwatts or policymakers to devise better solutions and better policies. But we are working with some vulnerable communities where the level of awareness of energy issues, the level of understanding or the perceptions over how we interpret things as simple as how do we interpret energy data, they are not there, right? So what we're doing is sharing, doing some sort of knowledge transfer between other case studies that are at different levels. If you see that scale that I presented, different levels of awareness and engagement, more active, less passive, more aware. We are using those let's say lessons learned or those best practices or insights to then support the less aware communities. At the same time, we are inquiring with the people in order to understand how do they perceive these energy interfaces. A company such as Cleanwatts develops energy interfaces. How will people react to that? Can we really implement solutions without knowing how do they look at it? How do they perceive it, right? So this is some of the work on the backstage that we need to do before we actually implement the solutions. I thought it was related with what Maria João was saying. It also answers to a degree the question from the participant. Yes, we are doing this, and we are very happy to share outcomes of our analysis and our inquiries with the publisher.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for João Maciel, or João, if you want to pick one of the questions here in the chat that you think is...
There's this last one. I mean, I'm not involved directly, but people are talking about, I would say, forum for discussion between different projects to share experiences. I mean, there's this bridge initiative, right, from the European Commission, where projects of the same category meet up, and then they organize it through different work groups, some having to do with business models, some having to do with the regulation. And so there is specific exchange within this context. And I do think that Janus is involved in this bridge initiative. But apart from that, not sure if there are that many explicit contact points between the projects. But at least that one I know, and it's a good platform for discussion.
Hey, João, the folks at the Commission are now, they are going to present now this energy communities repository, right?
Yeah.
So it's new to all of us, I guess. I think it's going to be presented next week at the European, at the same event we are in, actually, in the physical program. I think they're going to present it, and I think this is sort of an answer to the participants' question. Yeah, they would be, we don't know, it's something new, but they would be collecting outcomes, lessons learned from communities, community-oriented projects, I guess, local energy community projects. And here, our expectation is that there could be some sort of transfer of best practices and lessons learned. Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the questions in Slido as well. When will it be available? And you answered, well, it should be next week. Is there any other questions that anybody wants to ask or do want to answer before we go into closing remarks? We're reaching the top of the hour. I'm sure we could be here a lot longer, but yeah, we will have to move on. I don't know if anybody else wants. Go ahead.
There is a question that actually it's a good question about why is it better to sell energy to our peers in the community rather than sell it to the grid? And that's an excellent point, especially in the current days that we have, because we are seeing energy prices in the wholesale market. It's like massive, right? So if we look at this from the perspective, the economic perspective, or on the short term, maybe I would be more making more money if I put myself in the shoes of the producer, right? I would be making more money if I sell it directly to the grid. But in fact, with communities, so there are different elements that it's not just the short-term price, right? Of course, on one hand, this fluctuation and the huge prices that we see in the wholesale market, they reflect the current energy crisis that we are living in. And there are some changes on policy and also at market level, how this can actually be improved and provide more stability on the way that the price is being formed right now. So this is a discussion on the markets. Another thing is with an energy community, it's the vision is more on the long term. So basically, we are reducing the uncertainty level of the prices that we'll have next year or the following year, because usually an energy community is established with a duration of 15, 20 years or more. Basically, the energy is there. We can fix the price and provide more stability to whoever is using that energy. So it reduces that vulnerability. Another thing is, if we think about the perspective of a small prosumer, is not that simple to actually go and sell directly in a wholesale market. So he will probably have an arrangement with an aggregator that might not reflect on him the price that he would be getting from the wholesale market. So there's also that element of simplicity when we are connected with an energy community. So this is just some of the ideas that I see, and I understand it's challenging, thinking, why should I be selling the energy right now for the community and not selling this to the market, to the wholesale market? But in fact, we need to have a vision on the long term and realize that what we are living today, it's today. So there's that, so the uncertainty part also. I'm not sure if Gonçalo or João, if you share the same idea or if you have another vision on this.
I could just in general, yes. I mean, I do think that we don't know to what extent this trend or this situation on the energy markets, how long or short this will be. But I mean, we do think it's a recent, still a bit unknown phenomenon, let's say. And so I do think that what you said is correct. I mean, when we settle locally, I mean, we reduce volatility for the global system, right? It's like having a battery or using some flexibility mechanisms when we use energy locally. There's also, of course, this topic of using less the grids as well. So reduction in electricity losses on the grid. So I guess if we think economically, it would make more sense to settle locally. But I mean, I'm not in position to comment on, let's say, on the current context of the energy markets, let's say.
This is a tough one, and I would suggest that it may have been one of the toughest challenges FleXunity would have to go through with this sort of community energy goals management. I would just say that by nature, energy communities are not oriented toward, by nature, no, by definition, at least the definition we're working with from the Commission, they are not defined by generating, let's say, corporate profit or major profit. They are designed in order to provide benefits of different types of nature to their participants. And so one thing that I remember going through with Luisa over and over is how do we prioritize the decisions that are made when it comes to selling within the peers, within the community, or selling to the market? So who is making those decisions? And I think that the key here is listening to the participants. Essentially, the participants are the energy community. So what would they rather do? Would they rather secure other sorts of interests, such as the one that the participant is talking about? Would they rather secure that within the community? Would they rather take decisions that have to do with selling and maximizing profit? That is really no golden rule, and this is one of the conclusions we've gotten to. Every system is different. Every community is different, and when we establish these technical systems, the technical system also has to have a human nature, essentially. I continue playing the tape of the point of view of the GRETA project as coordinator of the project. Of course, I'm also an engineer, but this is the perspective of the project. Yeah, thank you. Good question, by the way.
Okay, I think our time is up. Louise, if you want to make some closing remarks, the floor is yours.
Good. Yeah. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for our presenters for sharing your knowledge, your experience on what is now happening in terms of energy communities. I think we have seen today evidence that energy communities can actually drive the energy transition from both research side and also from the current commercial implementations. Energy communities are making available today access to clean energy and cheaper energy locally. And basically, this is a starting point because we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of barriers to overcome. Today we talk about some smaller implementation barriers that we have. And this is an example here in Portugal, because we do have a legal framework in place now about 2 years time. But we still have some challenges in other countries where they don't have yet a legal framework in place. And in fact, it's really urgent for us to move faster, to enable the growth of energy communities faster. We see that we have a huge demand from the consumer side because of the current energy crisis, the need to be more independent, the need to add more renewables to achieve the goals that we set for decarbonization pathways that we need to implement. So it's the right time to look into this, but it's also the right time to have policy makers and regulators understand and implement simpler ways to enable the market to move faster. This is our perspective, but we still feel that energy communities will play a huge role and have a huge potential in the current challenges that we are living today. Thank you all for coming, and hope to see you soon.